Hi, this is Steph with Belladonna Dyes, and today we're going to make a double spiral. So I was asked to make a double spiral and slow it down and try to explain what it is I'm actually doing. And it's not going to be an easy task, but I'm going to try. The first step in the double spiral is to decide where you want your spirals to be. I take a washable marker and I made a small dot up here at the right hand corner, and I made a small dot down at the left hand corner, and then I'm just going to spiral them up. I spiral them the same way I do a single spiral. Now, you're going to spiral this first spiral, and when you see that second dot come into the view of the screen, that's when I stop on the first spiral and start working on the second spiral. I hope that makes sense. I like the way the first spiral looks, and now it's time to work on the second spiral. And when you do this spiral, you want to go in the same direction that you did the first spiral. And you also want to hold down your first spiral, because if you don't, as you're twisting the second spiral, the first spiral will come undone. So the double spiral is all spiraled up. They kind of look like cinnamon rolls, don't they? Now with the rest of the shirt, you just want to continue to make some pleats and wrap it around, and then secure it with the rubber bands. And have I mentioned I love these rubber bands? So I got them at Amazon, and there's a link for them down below in the description box, along with everything else that I use to create tie-dye. This next step is the hard part to explain. I've made several of these shirts, so I just get it now. At first, it was difficult for me to understand, and I watched Angie over at Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab, and she explained it the best that she could, and I watched her video over and over and over again. I made a bunch of shirts that didn't turn out great, but eventually I started figuring out what works for me. So I'm going to try to demonstrate it. I recommend you just watch my hands and where I'm placing my washable marker, because this is what I do on every single shirt that I make. To try to help explain, I'm covering up one of the spirals. And the reason I'm doing that is because you treat each spiral as if it's its own shirt when dividing it up into the pieces of pie. So I'm using 4 colors for this particular shirt. So you notice if you look at just one spiral, I've made it into 4 equal triangles. I'm using the yellow washable marker to mark out where the center of the spirals are, so you, the viewer, won't lose sight of where the spirals are at. I'm going to start making a lot of marks with pen. So if you look at the shirt and it's just one spiral, right? You see there, that's one piece of the pie. And then if you look at the other spiral, that's one piece of the pie. These two are the intersecting colors, and I find that if you make that center one color, it has a nice flow, like a nice S pattern when you open the shirt up. Now let's mark out for the amethyst. And again, using that same technique, just looking at it as it's one spiral, you see that that's one piece of the pie. And now if you look at the other side of the spiral, that's one piece of the pie. And I like to do the colors opposite of each other. Let's mark out another color. Now you can clearly see that's one piece of the pie. Now let's go across the shirt and do the same exact thing. The final color is wisteria. And like we did before with the other colors, let's just mark out that final piece of the pie. So now it's time for the fun part. We get to add our dye. And I like to start with the lightest colors first. I feel like that gives them a chance to go in and spread out, and at the final results, you see more of the light colors. The dark colors just have a tendency to sort of swallow everything up. I want to point out, notice how the wisteria goes on and it sort of seems a little translucent and really not that great. But if you watch it as the minutes go by, it begins to react with the fibers in the shirt and really starts to deepen and become quite pretty. So I'm just going to continue working on my saturation. And when you're looking at your shirt after you get your first layer on, and it has a chance to start reacting with the cotton fibers. If you see it's sort of like a white fuzz, you need to add some more dye. I stepped away for about 15 minutes and let the shirt rest, and now I'm checking the saturation, and it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to give a little squeeze on the outside and just help force some of that dye into the folds. So for this project, I wanted to have the contrasting color lines going through it. So flip it over. And for this one, I'm using Deep Space, which is a really nice dark navy blue. And you want to work somewhat quickly. You want to just get a nice even layer on there so you don't see any more of the white t-shirt showing through. So now that we have all the dye on our shirt, it's time to set it aside and let it batch. So I flip the shirt over so that the purple side is facing up, and I'm going to put it inside the plastic bag, put the plastic bag inside of a plastic tote, put the lid on it, and let it batch for at least 24 hours. It's been 24 hours and now it's time to rinse out our shirt. So I'm going to start by using cold water, and that's going to rinse out any soda ash that might still be reacting within the shirt. And I'm going to gradually increase the water up to hot and rinse until the water runs clear. From here, it's going to go into the washing machine on a hot water cycle. And then I'm going to do a second hot water cycle using Synthropol. I'm going to do a third hot water cycle using Millsoft, and that brings softness back into the fibers after the dyeing process. I'll put it in the dryer, and then we'll come back and we'll see our results. Well, here it is, guys. Here's our shirt after it's been washed and dried, and it's absolutely beautiful. So you see the plum there in the center, that's our intersecting color, and then the amethyst is the magenta, and it sure is a beautiful color. And then we have the hydrangea, which is the darker lavender, and then the wisteria is the light lavender. And then the Deep Space just offsets all the colors and really makes them pop. I love it. What do you guys think? Go go ahead and leave me some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope by slowing down the portion where I mark out the pattern was helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a thumbs up and click the bell for future notifications. And remember, have fun tie-dyeing.